All right, it has arrived at the hour of 6 o'clock. We'll start this meeting. Councilman Chaves will begin by leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilman Bringhurst will offer an opening.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, thank you so much for all that was done for us, for this beautiful day, and for the wonderful opportunity we have to live in this beautiful valley. Father, we ask you to continue to bless us with the moisture that we need. And we ask that thou will guide and direct us as we discuss the welfare and the needs of the wonderful town that we live in, and that thou will help us to make decisions that benefit the whole. We ask, we pray for thy Spirit to guide us and direct us. We do so in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, we do have something to take care of tonight. Mike, would you ask your wife to stand up, please, for a minute? Oh, you can sit down. Yeah. We want to thank you from the city of Tocqueville for offering your husband us for 16 years and putting up with all of the decisions, all of the paperwork and everything that we put in through. And we recognize that you're a major part of what allowed him to make a major contribution to the city. We thank you. Okay, you can sit.
Didn't expect this.
Thank you. We'll go on with the meeting. No, just kidding. Okay, Mike, it's your turn. Sam, come forward. I'm not the only one who did this. Wait a minute, we got people coming. Go ahead. Mike Versamack has been a major part of our community for planning and zoning administrator and given us advice that I don't know we could pay for. Anyway, we appreciate 16 years of dedicated service to the town of Tocqueville. For that, I'm going to give you your nameplate. And this will go along with it too. We have a lot of people in town that I need the older you get, the service you provide. So thank you very much. Oh, and by the way, we're going to give you, I think what this is, I think this is Russian
Austrian.
surplus binoculars. Or Austrian. Thank you.
I'd like to say just a word or two. After 16 years, got to work with a lot of people. Not only on staff, but mayor and council, citizens. It was a great honor and privilege for me to serve the city of Tocqueville. There will always be a special spot in my heart for Tocqueville. I'm leaving with a lot of memories and a lot of good friends. So thank you.
Well, if you really have a special spot in your heart, we got a special spot we'd sell you on the west side sometime when we get the road in out there. Could build you a new home for your wife. We'll take you. Okay. Are there any statements of belief that anyone would like to offer at this time? Hearing none, then we will go into part B, approval of the agenda. Everybody look over the agenda.
I motion we approve agenda as written.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any declarations of conflict of interest from the council members this evening? All right, hearing none, then we'll go into the consent agenda. Review and possible approval of meeting minutes from September 1st and September 15th. Review and possible approval of city expenditures for September of 2021.
The minutes look good. We have to do two different things, don't we, Ken?
I think we can approve the consent agenda.
Yeah, well, we did the
Well, that's-
agenda.
yeah.
Meetings, I'd like to motion, we move to approve the meetings for our September 1st work meeting and our 15th business meeting.
And second the motion, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
City expenditures.
Yep.
I think they look good. I didn't see anything out of ordinary. So, motion that we approve those.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote approving the expenditures.
Aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Okay, that takes us to our public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who is here this evening that would like to address the city council on behalf of anything that is not on the agenda tonight. We would give you 3 minutes right now. Please come to the microphone and state your name and your address and your business. I love it. I love it. All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to presentation. What?
Gina, you come?
Oh, yeah.
Just take a seat.
Thank you.
Take it easy on you.
You know, I've been coming here for months. I'm Gene Wilder, live on 160 West Pecan Lane. Coming here for months asking for you to pave the lane. It's a gravel road that's not been paved ever since we've been a city, and even way before that. I haven't been able to come here for quite a while. I've been recovering from surgery, and my son-in-law, Brad, was pulling a garbage can. He fell down, hurt his shoulder, so he has to have surgery. My wife, Darlene, has to have a more serious surgery, so our house is in a turmoil right now, and so that's why I haven't been able to come here. But I've been coming here for months, and there are 7 families that live on this small lane, and they've asked me to speak for them. But we've been told that we can't have a pavement unless we have curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And so nobody wants that. So they've pretty much given up. So I'm not speaking for anybody here except me today. I just wanted to express my thoughts on this one-size-fits-all ordinance that you have to have curb, gutter, and sidewalk in order to have a paved lane. Well, one size does not fit all in our case. It's just a small little dead-end lane with 7 families living on it, and we've been protecting that pioneer family motif for over 100 years. Curb, gutter, and sidewalk would not serve any purpose, would be a total waste of money. None of us want it. And so I'm just asking you to find some way to pave Pecan Lane west of Ash Creek Drive. I know you can do it. And so I'm just asking you, please find some way to pave it without curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Thank you.
My name is George Lindstrom. I live at 1545 Chaparral Drive. And why don't you put in a booth going up to Tokerville Falls where you guys can make some money, you know, and then maybe you could pave his road. Anyway, that's what I had to say.
Mayor, just so you know, we had a meeting this morning. In the county, there are lots of things going on right now concerning Toker Falls and the access to it going through, you know, a very small one-way, basically private street kind of. And we're making some inroads, but it's going to be probably a little while before we get a different access into there. But we're working on that very thing because we don't like it either. That's just one of the problems with that whole thing.
Well, I just see where you could make, you know, where the city could make money on it, just like they did up there at Canary Falls. Same thing, you know.
Well, we, you know, I don't know how feasible that would be, but we're not excited about promoting traffic up that road anyway, so.
KYL took care of that. It's at your leisure and all of that.
The internet, there's,
Yeah, it's all over the world.
yeah, I think it's Google Maps that tells you can drive your Toyota Corolla up there.
Yeah. I've seen cars up there.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, we're working on something to try to fix that whole situation. Correct. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda tonight, we have a domestic violence awareness presentation from the Dove Center. I think Ann Hyde and Spilker is here tonight.
So yes, I'm Ann Spilker, and I don't live here in Tokerville, but I did grow up just down the street. I live in Washington County, and the Washington County Coordinated Community Response Team has asked for some help from school counselors to promote this, and that's what I do. I'm a school counselor. This organization, their mission statement is, we collaborate to prevent, respond to, and educate about domestic abuse and sexual assault. So that is what their purpose is. And they have asked the city council to adopt this proclamation and approve it. And I will read that to you. Whereas it is a basic human right to live a life free from violence and abuse. And whereas domestic violence is a serious problem that occurs in all cultures, communities, and does not discriminate by age, gender, social class, race, ethnicity, religious affiliation, or sexual orientation. And whereas 1 in 3 women and 1 in 7 men in Utah will experience intimate partner violence in their lifetime, and that 60 to 75% of families with intimate partner violence have children who are also impacted by the violence. And whereas seniors are also victims of domestic and sexual violence and are part of the most underreported group. Whereas domestic violence related homicides account for over 40% of homicides in Utah, and 80 Utah children will witness the murder or attempted murder of their mother every year. And whereas awareness and intentional collaboration are required to find solutions to abuse and intimate partner violence. And whereas it is the role of local government to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. And now therefore, I, the mayor, Lynn Chamberlain, of Tokerville, Utah, in partnership with the Dove Center, do hereby proclaim October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So that is their goal. In the city of Tokerville, we urge all residents to use October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month to learn how they can break the silence and end domestic violence in our community. So that's the proclamation, and that's our proposal that the city council adopt this and the mayor support this and and sign this and join with the other cities in Utah, in Washington County. All the cities in Washington County are having the same proclamation at their city council meetings.
When we get to the business part of this meeting, it's item number 3, so we'll discuss it more and call for a vote at that point. Okay, next on the agenda, the public hearing. Public input is sought on ordinance 2001 XX, an ordinance vacating a portion of North Chaparral Drive adjacent to the property owned by Jack Kohler LLC and Litchfield Family Trust, and authorizing the city to sell said vacated parcel to adjacent landowner.
Mayor, you need a motion to go into public hearing?
Have a motion for the public
Second.
hearing? And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is open. We'll take any public comment on this item that anyone would like to bring forward this time.
Well, I just have a question, because I don't really understand this. Yeah, my question is, what are they planning? Are they planning on using that whole lot and also the dirt road? Because I wasn't aware that there was a North Chaparral. We're on South Chaparral. And so my question is, are they planning on using that whole lot? Because I live adjacent to that. And that's my basic question. What is their intention with that property?
So on that map, if you can, and I missed your name, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Anita Lindstrom.
Anita. So that, Dana, if you just go to the north, right, we're about where the Hog's Back cut is. So you can see that's where the bypass road goes through. And as we've got the grading designed, those slopes are opening up a lot wider. So we needed to acquire some more land. And so Jack Kohler owns the piece, that piece that the mouse cursor's on right there. So we needed to acquire land from him to make the cuts so they can fit in there. So we have an agreement with him to do a property change, and then it left this little section of Rimview that's just going to be useless property because it goes to a cut. So we're going to abandon that road, and then it would become part of Jack Kohler's lot on the left. So it would become one lot instead of a roadway there. That makes sense. And then we're going to move the mailboxes so that they parallel the road, parallel Rimview, and then put a little turnout right there so that we have access to that for the citizens of it. Well, so probably could, George, except it's cliffs on the right side. And it's going to get narrower because how we're going to accommodate his property, the exchange, we're going to take a piece all the way down the right side of that and give to him. And then he's willing to purchase that other little piece that'll be left. So it becomes a narrow, kind of a funky little piece of ground. So that's why we're looking to vacate it.
So, but we don't know what Jack's intentions are for that property.
Just to turn it into one lot. That's what he wants to do, but he can't really turn it, so he has to amend the plat. Like there's a whole process to turn it into one lot. But it won't be buildable. I mean, if your question is, could he turn it into 2 lots? There will be no access to it from Rimview because the mailboxes will be in front of it. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So those are the mailboxes right there. So we're going to pull those down and put them here and then put a little knuckle so you can pull off of Rimview and access the mailboxes. And then somewhere right in here, there's a map. Do you have that one, Dana? That shows the property. Okay. So somewhere about in that point right there, back is going to be deeded over to Jack. Does that make sense?
That would still remain.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no zone change. It's staying as is now. Just going to increase that size of his lot.
You're up.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Mahoney. I live at 1608 South Ash Creek Drive, just down the road from there. I went down to check my mail this morning, as I do 3-4 times a week. and take my dog with me. When we have foster kids, I'll take them for a walk down there as well. What's been described as a useless little piece of land or a vacated piece of land is anything but to me and my family. As we know, open space is at a premium. A short walk down there with views out to either side, even though it's only a small little spot, is a beautiful repast for myself and my family and my animals. It's something that we value. It's something that we think is important to us and to our neighborhood and to Tokerville as a whole. We feel that the exchange that's been negotiated is unfair and unequal. We understand that a small piece of that land is needed for the bypass road. It's a very, very small sliver of what is essentially relatively useless land. And we're trading it for a quarter acre, almost a quarter acre of world-class views, beautiful open space. Those of us up in Tokerville Heights, it's a long walk to the park, and a park up there would be fantastic. We're not pushing for that. We just like that space to remain open and remain part of Tokerville proper. It doesn't seem to benefit the city to deed so much of that over to the adjacent landowner. I said that lot is vacant and has been vacant for the 10 years that I've lived here. Again, we feel without that access to open space and without the access to the great views that Tokerville is known for, we're losing some of the character that's in Tokerville Heights. As we start to fill in the neighborhood and as homes are built up there, those sight lines are decreasing day after day after day. So to have a nice little spot where we can take the dog, take the kids, go for some fresh air, something just down the street, get off the road for a little bit, get out of traffic, and just walk free, breathe free, see the hawks, the wild turkeys that fly over there. We understand that this is going to be impacted by the bypass road, and we're not in denial of that. But we seek to minimize that impact and again, keep that space free and keep that space as a part of Tokerville proper. So in short, I want to strongly object to the ordinance and this land swap that's proposed. Thank you for your time.
Just for clarification for the city, for members of the city that are here today. So we are not just giving that ground to the Kohlers. They're purchasing that property from us.
Correct.
So there will be an enhancement to the city as well. And then those of you that live up in the Heights, Dana, if you go back to Google Earth, I don't know how many people know about this. Can you scroll all the way out? Sorry. Like go back to the aerial view. Yeah, sorry. Yep, right there. Scroll down to the south. Keep going. Keep going. And right there. So that little parcel that's at the corner. So go down further, Dana. That one right below that. Below meaning to the east, not to the south. I'm sorry. So the city acquired that piece of ground right there. We own this piece right here. And we acquired that, maybe 5 years ago with the intentions of putting a pocket park up there for the Heights. So we're aware of the needs up there and trying to figure out some solutions that'll become beneficial. Because it is like we have these little islands all over Tokerville and trying to connect them is becoming more and more difficult. So just so that you guys are aware, we acquired some land up there with the intentions of trying to maintain some open space and benefit the people up in the Heights as well.
Much appreciated. The trees are lovely, and the walkway is lovely up there. It is a very steep hill on that side, and so it does limit access to some people, especially with mobility issues and things like that. Whereas the plot that we're speaking of this evening is open and available to everyone, easily accessible, the entire neighborhood, and just again a part of our community. Thank you again.
Anyone else? Okay, I would accept the motion.
Oh, so moved to close the public forum.
Yeah. No, for the
Public hearing. Sorry, my bad. Motion to close the public hearing.
Second, have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing then stands closed. We'll move on to the business portion of our meeting. Item number 1, G1, discussion and possible action on nightly rental application submitted by Corey Turner for a nightly rental located at 728 South Westfield Road. Recommended approval 5-0 by the planning commission.
Mayor, we discussed this in the work meeting. I'd move that we approve item G1, nightly rental application submitted for Corey Turner.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 2, discussion and possible action on a deferral agreement for Kirk and Raina Thorne, 270 North Hillside Drive.
Mayor, this is for a deferral agreement, obviously up on top. They built a home up there. We don't have curb gutter and sidewalk on that side of the road. We have it on the other side of the road. So this is a standard procedure. Just looking for approval from the council.
So I motion that
Why
we.
don't you explain exactly what it is we're deferring?
So by ordinance, we require that you put in curb gutter and sidewalk if it's existing on your side of the road to tie it together, where there's nothing on that side of the road at present.
Yeah.
We allow them to sign a deferral agreement so that when the city decides to go through and put those improvements in, we'll go to those citizens and ask for funds to help contribute to putting those in.
If they were to put it in right now, we'd have no idea whether they'd be at the proper height or grade or whatever.
Whether it's what or not.
We need to barely be turning it out. We do it piecemeal.
Mayor, I motion that we approve item G2, the deferral agreement.
I would second the motion, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, discussion and possible resolution of making October Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Mayor, I'd make motion to approve this item.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item number 4, discussion of possible action on an ordinance vacating the portion of North Chaparral Drive adjacent to the property owned by Jack Kohler, LLC and Litchfield Family Trust, and authorizing the city to sell said vacated parcel to an adjacent landowner.
Mayor, I just have a couple questions in regard to this item. Heath, we have, I think, an overlaid easement for utilities that are encumbered on that piece of property, as well as an overhead power line that has an easement on that. So those need to stay in place. We need to make sure that, or the utility easement can go away, but the overhead power line is not going to go away. So I just need to make sure we
If
clean
it's
that up.
recorded easement, we convey title to them. They take title subject to any existing easements.
So as long as we're covered on that, I just wanted to make sure that those items were covered.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah, real quick, do we have an agreement signed and stuff for this? We're not motioning to get rid of it right now, we're just approving to
So this would
maybe.
approve the ordinance. There's multiple steps, and we didn't have a way, correct, Heath, to,
So the ordinance abandons it as a dedicated right of way. So
Okay.
it just becomes city property at that.
Okay,
The motion is also to authorize the mayor to enter into the land exchange and sale agreement. Because it is both an exchange and a purchasing. There's more coming up.
okay.
Were there any written objections submitted to the city? Nothing in writing?
I have the 2 people that spoke on it tonight.
ready for motion, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve item G4, possible action of ordinance 2021, vacating the portion of Chaparral Drive.
Here we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the item?
We have just augment your motion to include authorizing.
Well, there's
There's one
item
more
five.
item below it. Is,
Yeah.
are we okay?
That's yet to
That's
come.
number 5, okay. So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion carries. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on real estate purchase and exchange agreement for Jack Kohler LLC.
Mayor, I'd move that we approve this item.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on Levi Savage Monument at the Tokerville Cemetery.
I think we discussed this at length in work meeting, and the only hesitation, right, was finding out, making sure we're putting it in the correct spot so that we can go forward. As long as those items have been met, I'd make a motion to approve the Levi Savage Monument.
A motion and second. Any other discussion on the item?
So maybe the only other item that we had discussed with that is that we come up with some standards and guidelines to be able to put monuments up. I don't think we're to that point yet, but hopefully we're tasked with that moving forward to get that done.
What kind of time frame, Rex, are you looking at putting that up?
Well, the time factor is the bronze work. That takes some time, and it's probably gonna be May before we get all that bronze done. The actual monument will only take 2 weeks to build, but the bronze
Right.
stuff's gonna take a little while, so.
I mean,
Well, I think the question is they've submitted
model. Yeah.
conceptual of it. If we were to adopt some standards after the fact and
Yeah.
then ask them to apply it
Change,
retroactively, that would be.
No, and I'm fine approving this. We have
Just so that we can.
an idea what it is, but as these continue to come, we want to have some guidelines and what's significant. Do we just put a monument up for everybody that wants one? Or does it need to be significant to Tokerville? Does there need to be history tied to Tokerville? Does it need to be a benefit for the community, not just for a family?
That's what I remember, some of the standards.
So-
What would qualify you to allow someone or some group to put up a monument in the city center?
Now, does the person have to be dead yet? I'm just wondering if I can start mine.
No, we can put one, we can start building your own right now, just.
Okay, I'm just curious. I just
See that chicken coop over there?
so. Okay, that's all. I have, Rex. All right.
Any other discussion on this item? I'd accept the motion then.
We have a motion and a
Have a
second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Number 7, discussion of possible action on National American Indian Heritage Month.
What month is that?
Well, November, I think, isn't it?
November?
Yeah. I think.
Mayor, I motion.
Resolutions have any binding meaning to the
No.
city, or?
Just that we're
Just-
we're acknowledging that.
Just acknowledging that it's happening.
Mayor, I motion that we approve item G7.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, discussion of possible action on affordable housing plan as per Gary Nielsen.
I don't know what action we're making.
I think what he was looking for was just a vote of support. I mean, we're obviously not committing anything at this point, but
I think
We had a discussion on whether or not you felt like there was a need to create a smaller residential zone, or whether we could accomplish it by a conditional use permit in a new zone. Yeah, we would have to allow a reduced lot frontage by conditional use permit. But that's about the only thing that would be holding us up from using that zoning. By making it come through on a conditional use permit, we can get really into down the weeds on the details of that. And when you're trying to do affordable housing, you really do want to get into a little more detail than just your standard.
So instead of changing the ordinance, we just make them conditional use and then we can individually cater to the specific project.
It seemed like as we closed out that discussion, though, that we felt like it'd be better to have it be a zone, make a zone for it. So that instead of doing conditional uses, we were doing, they had to do.
That's the drawback, just so that the council understands. When the council is granting a conditional use permit, it is acting administratively, and their decision can be challenged. It can be subject to a challenge if the applicant doesn't like the outcome. They can challenge it and have to give the council as much discretion as when they're acting legislatively. when you're approving a zone change to a smaller zone, that's a legislative act, and the court has to give this council, you're the land use authority for the city, and it won't second guess you acting legislatively. So that would be the only benefit to creating a smaller zone, is that if we do, I would probably suggest that we put some standards, some additional standards than what we have in our normal residential zones.
Does it mean more work for Joey? Yeah, then I'm in favor of
Yeah,
that.
I think we ought to recommend that to the planning commission to draft.
There was discussion in the planning commission. Do you want to just give some feedback as to what happened there at the planning
What I
commission?
think we need to think about as far as making a smaller zone, and I am in favor, I think we do need this, but inside of the MPDOs, there's gonna be affordable housing units already, there's gonna be smaller zones. They're gonna encompass a lot of that, at least in the Firelight portion, I don't know about the other one. But they are probably gonna promote that, so if you exclude them areas and think of what's left, that's what we need to concentrate on, the zone, the smaller zone that we want and what we want to see. So you basically got the whole valley that you can see on either side and Henderson Junction. So in my mind, you just need to think about doing a zone change for them areas. And also
Well,
some
and I don't-
MPDOs could change.
So Joey, I wonder if, like, I'm not suggesting today that we do a zone change, but that we structure and come up with a zone with those guidelines that fall inside of it, right? And then they'd have to come in for a zone change application, which means there'd be a public hearing, and we'd be able to get input sought for that. And you're right, it's only gonna affect, really, Anderson Junction is probably the bigger portion of that, some of the ground to the south, and then right through the valley. So it'd be good to have input. And I struggle to think that we're going to consider what happens in Firelight, in the Lowe's parcel, or in the Litchfield parcel, that's going to be affordable housing like what he presented. I mean, there's going to be density. I don't know as though it's going to be affordable housing.
This particular presentation, he was talking 12 to 14 per acre.
Yeah,
That's the-
and they can still do that. Yeah,
How small does the city want to see?
that's really
I
tight.
don't know that would get through zoning.
Well,
That's like tenement housing.
you know, Joey, how we have in each one of the residential zones, we have a table, and it's got some basic specifications for frontage. When you start to get into a zone that small. Premium, size of road size. They're gonna come in and try to be asking for a variance from our standard road cross sections. How are you gonna have, there's just a lot of issues when it starts to get dense that we don't have, like things like fire protection and stuff like that, which isn't necessarily our problem with the fire districts, but do they have ladder trucks to do 4-story high and things like that? Those become issues. Can they turn around in small radius roads like that and get into access to fight fires if you're trying to put 14 to 16?
Do you allow a cul-de-sac versus that has to be a through street? Like there's,
Yeah, you have to have 3 streets and cul-de-sacs to get that.
I was talking with the operations manager of Switch Point just yesterday, and she indicated that they're trying to convert, and it looks quite promising right now, one of like a Super 8 motel in the vicinity of Skyline Drive and 1000 East into more affordable housing. And then they're looking into actually going vertical instead of horizontal with some units. So that's kind of been talked about right now. For affordable housing, it's really important that you have access to transportation, and ideally, close proximity to parks and to schools and to shopping.
It almost seems like
My issue on this particular agenda item is the fact that he needs this 1031 exchange to happen by December 31st, and it is not going to happen for him by that date, not with the city. And so I'm okay with the planning commission moving forward on the smaller zone proposal, but as far as
this
giving,
presentation.
giving him the go-ahead or the green light. In the real world, that 1031 is not going to be done by the end of December for him.
I think you're right, Gary. And I don't want to be in a situation where we're hurrying to make something to accommodate somebody anyway. So,
Right, and we're spending a lot of time and,
so should we table that item?
Well, do we want to
Or
table
leave
it, or
it.
do we want to just strike it for the moment and let him come back when he's ready
I
to
don't know
build
how we,
something?
what kind of action we would take.
There is.
Yeah,
So we've had the discussion on it.
yeah.
Don't make it an action.
do we take a vote just to take it off? Have a consensus.
We had a discussion, we took no action.
Okay. So let it be written. All right, item number 9 then, discussion of possible action on Choya Turning Lanes, UDOT agreement and possible expenditure of $143,079.
So we talked about this as well. This is in the capital facilities plan. We've accounted for it. We have budget for it. We're not putting it out to bid yet, but we will be doing it this winter as long as the council agrees. Really, this is the UDOT agreement, and as long as the council is comfortable with it, I'd like to make motion on that.
Is that the total amount?
No, it's
So
50,
that's our
50%.
50%.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the time?
As soon as I put it together.
Well, I
They can
mean,
shovel.
as soon as you get the-
So the money's that UDOT has the money allocated. We have the funds allocated. We're ready to go, other than I haven't bid it out. There's a whole process. This will be the first of the year.
Proposal package together.
But once we get the paperwork, how long does it take you to do it?
Oh, this is probably a 120-day project.
Did you motion to approve?
I have not yet.
I'll motion to.
You will?
All right, we have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
No. Half of 300 and something, or 290, whatever it is.
290.
Yeah, nicely done.
Okay,
It's worthwhile saving a life
Oh, yeah.
because we're going to lose one if we keep it up down there.
Sunday, I drove to Laverton right as Third Ward was letting out at 4 o'clock, or whatever time you let out. And there was traffic coming the other way, and it was backing up
It's a mess.
on the southbound. Yep. It was dangerous. It was scary.
I would just approve the one, or
I'll-
move to, for the 143 not for that dollar amount.
I motion that we approve item G9 at the total of $143,079.
We need another second, I guess.
I second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and possible action on the cemetery.
This is an update. I've put that, it's the same changes that we discussed previously in the work meeting. I put it into ordinance format. That's it. We are basically, just a couple of the high points on the changes. We are making the perpetual maintenance fee for the obligation. You cannot choose to have a plot that is not, and not pay the perpetual maintenance fee. Everyone has to pay it going forward. So that, the option to opt in and out is out of there. We had some discussion about the right that the state statute gives cities that if a aerial plot is not used within 60 years, then there is a process that can be followed. It's a legal proceeding to be done. We had some discussion on how to deal with that. I looked at other cities' ordinances, and it just says that if it's not used, they reserve the right to, but that would require, and I would suggest that we at least keep it in there so that we have it in our ordinances, that we have the right. State statute gives it to us anyways. But that's the way I think we should deal with that. It's just, we're not saying that we will, just that we may. And that's really the high points of the changes. Well, we discussed these, all I did was, we had a red line version of this ordinance at the work meeting that we reviewed. I put it into an ordinance format and as an amended new city ordinance, and that's in your SharePoints. You can't take action on it if you'd like to. It's not a land use ordinance per se, so it doesn't have to go to planning commission for recommendations. It's just one of our general ordinances regarding cemeteries.
Question regarding this. Says unused after 60 years from date of purchase, the city may initiate procedures in compliance with Chapter 5, Title 8 of Utah Code. Do we know what that is?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It requires the filing of a legal proceeding with the district court in the county where the cemetery is located. We have to notify and do a prove up hearing to the court that we've notified the plot owner or the next of kin to the best, and we have to submit like a good faith affidavit attempts to notify and serve them and everything like that. And then if they have the right to object, and if they come in and show that they have an intent to utilize it in a reasonable period of time, the court is supposed to give a presumption that they can retain it and not to grant the reversion or forfeiture clause. And
Yeah.
so that's,
Do we have to buy it back?
I said they paid for it.
Yeah, well, for the price they paid for it.
Yeah, but if they paid, yeah, I mean, if they paid for it 50 years ago, it might have been $50.
I'm thinking,
25
I'm
bucks.
thinking of 60 years from now, you know.
Sure.
You won't be around.
He said it, not me.
We don't have to pay them the time value, the time value of what they paid.
I'm taking you with me.
Chuck, are you all right with this?
Can I make this motion?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Second. They made a motion.
Don't you control him.
I move that we accept this ordinance as modified.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 11, discussion of possible action on secondary water connections.
What am I doing on this one? On what item, what part of it? I gotta know if I did it or not.
Yeah, what are we doing on our secondary water connections? Was this the anti-flow?
No, should be backflow. I don't think it's doing it. No.
I motion that we table this item.
Yep, I'd second that motion. I can tell you what I think this is in regards to is the TSWS board is looking at identifying an area that is a will serve area versus allowing secondary water to continue to be put in as it grows, as development grows. I believe that's what this is in regards to.
I think that's correct, but I don't know if I'm ready to.
TSWS has to make motion on that first.
Yep.
So that's where that needs to be. And then the city would be in support of it. Yep. So there'd be no motion to be made on that, except we meet November
18th.
18th. So it would probably be, Ruth, probably December meeting. We'll be able to put that back on. And that, if it's in regards to that, we have an agenda item on that for it. Mayor, I move that we table G11.
It's already been moved. We
And I
just need a
seconded it.
second.
I seconded it then.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table item number 11. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Stands tabled. Okay. Item number 12, discussion of possible action on policy procedures, employee probationary period.
I believe that we modified that to enable the employee to have a 90-day probationary period from hire date. And that's the only change that was made here. And
I don't recall it being a probationary period that we were talking about unless that is the only way we can tie it in to them receiving benefits.
Yeah, that was the intent, was the healthcare benefits, was to be eligible for healthcare benefits, within a certain period of time. We are talking, right now it's 6 months. So we were talking about 90 days or even a month or even upon hire. So that was the discussion we had with the work meeting.
Probation period is related to performance and then also whether eligibility for healthcare. Would you see it as both in this situation here?
I could see it as two separate. You could have a probationary period that's different than your eligibility for care.
This doesn't say anything about healthcare, does it? This is related to work performance.
I don't think we talked about reducing the probationary periods before. We talked about making health insurance available in 90 days.
That's my understanding too, what you talked about.
Require, or they can't be a probationary employee, but I don't know if that would be.
I don't know that that's a requirement. Yeah. So, I mean, this change here doesn't say anything about health insurance. It's basically about work performance during the first 90 days of the hire.
The only discussion we've had was health insurance.
Looks like this needs to be tabled and bring back with modifications for health. Right?
For both, I think we need one for performance and we need one.
That one is already
Right.
for performance based on a, no, it's 6 months.
Well, it's 6 months, so we've got it written, somebody's been on to 90 days, so what do we?
Typically, in the industry, and correct me if you feel I'm wrong on this, but 90 days is a typical period where you can evaluate whether you want to keep somebody or not.
Yeah, I think 6 months is long.
You know, one thing, the city has an employee policies and procedure manual, and most municipalities do, and they might be a little bit more detailed or convoluted than your normal simple small business. A city employee after this probationary period has certain rights. They have the right to appeal, they have the right to make grievances, and to have those things heard. Where if you terminate the probationary period, we don't have any obligation to set forth in the notice of termination the cause for the termination. It's just, you know, we don't want to have, or whatever it can be. So that's why probationary periods are nice, because then you're not having to deal with cause or no cause and an employee attempting to appeal or challenge that and have their employment reinstated. I'm an advocate to some extent. I think the whole reason why we're doing this is to make sure that the city is an enticing place for prospective employees to come and work. We don't want to make it too challenging on them. We want them to, we'd like them to have the benefits that the other employees would have as soon as possible. But as a city, we also want the ability to, we don't have that many employees that we do hire. We want them to be good working, efficient employees too. So I would probably suggest that we modify it to say that there's no wait period on eligibility for benefits, but that they are still a probationary employee and that we can evaluate performance and make determination on termination without them having any vested rights to appeals or challenging the decision.
But if you're looking at trying to entice somebody to come to work, I mean,
then you shorten it, because then they feel more vested, more tenured after 90 days. So it's up to you.
I guess I don't feel comfortable with having a vote on this the way it's written at all, because we haven't had a discussion on probationary periods. We've had a discussion on eligibility for health benefits.
No, we're just having a discussion. I agree. I don't think we should.
Yeah.
So the only thing that he said, I would struggle with giving benefits to them from day one, just for the fact that that's a lot of work. By the time we get them put into it, and if they decide, they come here and they decide, yeah, this doesn't fit and they're gone in 30 days, we've done all the work. And, you know, I'm fine shortening that period up, but I don't know what it should.
90 days.
That's you, Gary.
I feel like 90 days on health and 90 days on probation.
All right.
But I don't know, do you
I
want?
think we need to discuss it further before we vote on.
Okay, Gary, do you want to put your pen to it and see?
Well, I know what I've got in companies that that's what I have, and it works. Liabilities there, but, you know, I don't think we're in a situation where we're treating our employees to where they have a claim against us if we discharge.
So,
I'd be glad to, survey the other cities in the area to see what probationary period they would have and when they're eligible for benefits. And we could talk about that at our next work meeting.
I'm just gonna kind of give an example. When I hired on the state, my probation was 18 months, but the benefits started on day one. And if you're looking for a good employee that's planning on being a good employee, they're not worried about the probationary period, but they are worried about benefits. Well, in the private sector, delays the start of benefits. I know the state does not, just for information.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
I'd move that we table this item.
Second. This discussion, number 12, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, tabled. Item number 13, discussion of possible action on American Rescue Plan Act funds for expenditures and software purchases.
Okay. The American Rescue Plan Act provides funds for COVID and to hire essential workers. And I've had the discussion with the Utah League of Cities and Towns. They just hired an administrator to look at the use of American Rescue Plan Fund Acts. And I mentioned to him that we're looking into using some of the funds for employee salaries. And he's comfortable with my argument that the employees that we have are essential. A lot of the American Rescue Plan Act funding is also earmarked for water and sewer. And my argument is, we might be able to get a water tank and have a sewer line, but do we really have people to take care of that infrastructure, that essential infrastructure? And recently we've had an employee who's been offered, a different job that would pay $2.50 an hour more than he's currently making. And then we've had other employees that have, that received other offers that they're higher than what we have. So my proposal is to use some of the funding for the American Rescue Plan Act for a $2 an hour wage increase or bonus for 3 positions and a $2.50 bonus for the public work position that he just received recently an offer for employment in another city that was for $2.50 more than he's currently making. If we look at our policies and procedures under procurement, it gives us the guidance that any federal assistance funds need to be okayed by the city council. In most instances, if it's like between 10,000 and 50,000. So we've prepared as kind of a spreadsheet to show where we would like to use these funds. And we could, break these up and make them into smaller amounts. But there is a provision in our policies and procedures that says that no employee or staff member shall intentionally or knowingly divide a procurement into one or more smaller procurements with the intent to make a procurement meet a threshold established by this policy. So in an effort to be very transparent, we just wanted to bring this back to the council and say, these are the items that we've agreed to purchase. The ones that are in black and the ones that are in red are the items that we would like to purchase. If you notice down towards the bottom, and we currently have a seasonal employee. Our public work administrator would like to keep a seasonal employee, mostly so that would free up, particularly JD, to do more GIS mapping and data inputting for the iWork software, which is to keep track of our infrastructure and manage our infrastructure. So that would be the point of entering into another seasonal employer contract for 6 months. But we also have the need for doing some crack sealing, and our public works director mentions that we need at least 4 individuals to put that crack sealing down. And right now we just would have 3 with a new Public Works employee, which we are interviewing for right now.
Because I see individual names here, wages, wage increases and bonuses for certain individuals. I think this is something that needs to be discussed in executive session with the city council before we proceed with this.
Yeah, I just view it as positions, but in the one case, I wanted to be very transparent that this one individual has received a verified offer for employment for substantially more.
Yeah, it should be an executive session that we have that discussion.
Well, for public discussion, I'm real comfortable using this money for wages, increase of wages, and next year we don't get the money.
Scheduled for next year too. but
Okay,
it's-
2 years.
2 year window. We don't
2
know.
years, and then what do we do when we don't get this money and we've made pay raises?
Right. You could look at that and say, well, that it was good while it was lasted. You could have that positive attitude. Well, for instance, if this Public Works employee we're interviewing right now, we say, hey, right now we're proposing to have a $2 wage increase, but that's subject to grant funding. So if they know that going in, and maybe we'll want to look at that as an overall budget issue for next year. But we're seeing some real strains on our employees to retain good employees and attract good employees with the current budget that we have. So I'm looking at this American Rescue Plan funding as a way to shore up some of our essential workers, provide essential functions and services to the city.
And once again, I think it's, we need to take a look at all of the city employees and have a discussion about that, especially what Councilman Sick brought up with the fact that it's a temporary situation based upon this grant. And I'd like to discuss it in executive session, and I move that we do so.
If you need to raise your city employees' salaries, then raise their salaries. You can't use one-time money as ongoing funds. You're either going to have to hurt the employee down the road or come to the taxpayers to pay more. So if you need to increase their wages, increase their wages. Find it in your budget.
You send the big money back to the government where it came from. Oh, yeah.
Mayor, you have a motion in a second.
Motion to go into executive session?
So I think we probably need to make a motion on item G13.
Let's table item
And
G13.
table that, and then we can make a
Okay,
motion to go into
that's
executive
what we
session.
need. So we do need a motion on table.
Mayor, I'd move that we table item G13.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that stands tabled then for the moment. We have a proposal to go into executive session. So that actually concludes the regular business of this meeting. I think.
No reports.
So this would be the appropriate time for us to do that. So at this point, let's see, we have to vote on it. But
Mayor, move that we go into an executive session for the discussion of employment. Yeah.
Character, competence, employment of city employees.
Second.
Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
George, good to see you.
Okay, this-